3 straight PLEs with perfect picks. Yeah, you should stay here for the Saturday night's main event picks next. It's the first Betting WWE video of 2026, but it seems like we're stuck on repeat as it is the second straight and third PLE out of 4 that is the Saturday night's main event. And yes, this is a PLE because it's only available on Peacock. So I don't care what WWE has to say. But the good news here is that we come in on fire now with 3 straight shows of perfect picks, as our last miss was the opening match at Crown Jewel in October. And in those 3 straight shows, topically including 2 other Saturday night's main events, we are 11-0 overall, including 3-0 at Saturday night's main event 42 in December. So I have to note that Cody Rhodes versus Obafemi ended in a no contest there, so we simply get our money back and throw that one out the window, though it may be relevant in our discussion a little bit later here today. So let's take a look at our record from BackLash through John Cena tapping out like a little in December. So our record is now 57-10, which is well over our target of 80% for an 85.07% winning percentage, and our lifetime record is now 119-25 for an 82.64% winning percentage. So let's go to our history of Saturday night's main event, and I am getting tired of all of these history of Saturday night's main event segments, but it is still very important, and this is number 43 overall. But in December, all 3 matches with decisions were won by the favorites, though you'd never know it by the crowd's reaction at the end of Cena versus Gunther. This seems to be the most telling trend lately with these events, as we've only had 3 underdog wins in the 6 prior Saturday night's main events in the Triple H era, and none of them in the last 2. And as we always say at Saturday night's main event, champions retain, and it's a glorified house show. And this tracks with so many favorites winning at these events because house shows pretty much just are there to give the crowd a good time. Now that being said, just like Naomi, I urge you to proceed with caution, as 1 year ago on the pre-Rumble edition of Saturday night's main event, we got the worst upset that we saw in years as Jacob Fatu destroyed Braun Strowman, but then the ref inexplicably got in the way of a hip attack and Fatu ended up tossing the ref out of the ring. And so then the ref stopped the fight to give Strowman a win that he did not deserve. And unfortunately for us, Fatu was a minus 5,000 favorite, so that was a decision none of us could afford. And we simply hate it when you get the analysis right, but then WWE applies some super shenanigans with really just a pathetic call at the end. So let's get it started with our 1 title match for the Women's Tag Team Championships with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky at minus 700, and Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez at plus 400. So why Rio? Well, these 2 have not lost as a team yet. Now granted, that's only 5-0-1 in all tags since July, and a mere 2-0 in traditional tags, but perhaps that's a good thing as these 2, as a duo, is still quite new. And seemingly they are quite beloved already, so it means that it would be quite a quick turnaround to end this partnership already. And then let's add in that Io hasn't lost any tag match since December of 2024, and Rhea, ridiculously, hasn't lost any tag match since May of 2023, and even in that match, it was a mixed tag. And if you saw my bold predictions, you know that I think they'll fight for the world title while they are still tag team champions. So I guess in one way that could be clouding my judgment. But if and when there will be tension between these 2, it makes more sense to it to start no earlier than the Royal Rumble itself, than right here. And then Liv's short speech in the Judgment Day Clubhouse was a bit more telling than it seems, saying that she thought that Roxanne was a liar, manipulative, etc., etc. Which means she probably really still thinks those things, so that keeps the thought bubble open that somebody is turning on somebody in the not too distant future, but before that happens, building some animosity through losing in this particular match is the way that you need to go. And excluding one random match last year, these two only have the one tag match together, so it's not like they really have any momentum going that would make it hard to believe that they would lose. Instead, they should start stacking L's here and then at the Rumble if a possible breakup is on the way. I will also note that Liv's the betting favorite for the Rumble match itself, so it's much more likely for her to win that if she is not the tag team champion. But I guess we'll talk a lot more about that next week. But why could the Judgment Day win? Well, Liv has been on fire since her return as the reason that Daddy Dom got his IC title back against John Cena. And she loves to tell everyone that she never lost those tag team titles. So it would make a lot of sense if she got them back right here. And if the Judgment Day is just going to go for all the gold and sing Kumbaya along the way, well, you are halfway there if Liv and Roxanne win. And I also want to remind you that Rhea had a shockingly short world title reign last year when she lost to Io on the Raw after the Elimination Chamber, and they both were in the women's title match. So what if they drop these belts here to either start their animosity in a non-title WrestleMania match, or for one of them to win the Rumble, as Rhea is the third favorite and Io is sixth. But Rio is just undeniable for this particular moment, and if there's tension to be had at the Rumble, it's more likely to be between the Judgment Day members than Rhea and Io. And that starts with losing here to grow those seeds of doubt, so Rio is the pick, and we'll make this a half unit bet. After the qualifying matches last week on SmackDown, we have an undisputed WWE Championship #1 contenders fatal 4-way match, which is just way too long of a name for this match. But Sami Zayn is the favorite at -600, followed by Randy Orton at +300, then Trick Williams at +700, and Damian Priest is tied at +700. So we'll start from the bottom up here, and why Damian Priest? Well, I don't see any good reason here for him, so I think these odds are actually not long enough. But if there's one thing we don't need to see anymore, it's McIntyre versus Priest, because excluding the Rumbles themselves, they had 3 PLE matches in 2024, though admittedly 2 of those were cash-in attempts, and then we did it again in 2025 with 4 more PLE matches, including at WrestleMania 41. Sure, Priest ambulance match win versus Aleister Black was nice, but he needs to find something, well, anything else to do. And I think it might be this particular opponent who is next in Trick Williams. So why Trick? What a start this man has had on the main roster, and it's probably surprising those guys that you see in Unreal about how well he is known from his time at NXT. And he and Priest surprisingly have a one-on-one match tonight on SmackDown, which if nothing else is a reason for them to start a real feud and cost each other in this particular match. He also is the only heel in this match, and we know that we don't want a heel versus heel title match at the Royal Rumble, so no, this isn't going to happen for Trick. So why Randy Orton? Well, we certainly can't count out Orton since he just returned and has made his intentions clear that he wants that title. And theoretically, it is easier for him to get it now that Rhodes is not the champion, and perhaps if this Saturday night's main event and the Rumble were being held anywhere else in the world, he might be the favorite. But Orton also suffers from some McIntyre fatigue, as Orton only had 12 televised matches in 2025, and 4 of them were against Drew McIntyre. Though I have to admit that this particular feud was one of the strangest of the year, and after a throwaway one-off match in March, they really got into things mid-year with, surprisingly to me at least, Randy Orton won their first match at Saturday night's main event, which was really just a setup for them to be on opposing sides of the Jelly Roll tag match at SummerSlam, with the blow-off match on SmackDown in September that really was just setting up McIntyre versus Rhodes at WrestlePalooza. That does seem pretty strange to me. So while that somewhat leaves the door open for one more match, I just don't think so right now. So why Sami Zayn? Wow, this is set up perfectly for him, right? He gets this match in his hometown of Montreal, then that's going to be followed up by a title match in Saudi Arabia, where he's always leveled up a notch or two. And I guess that does make it the right place for him to win his first WWE title. And let's just throw in the fact that he is back to saying that his goal is to win that title, And the man that he's going to face is one where he's 0-11 against in televised matches, so this really seems to be setting it up as the perfect underdog story. But on the flip side, Saudi Arabia did host the greatest Royal Rumble with 50 participants, so we know that they do love a Royal Rumble. So they could actually have asked Zayn to be in that match and potentially win that Rumble itself instead. That is certainly possible, as Zayn is currently the third favorite to win the Rumble match. As I've already stated in my bold predictions video, Sami Zayn is going to win that title in Saudi Arabia, but not this time around, and instead we'll have to wait until WrestleMania 43. But I've also said that no Sami Zayn story is complete without maximum pain first. So merely starting the story with a loss in Saudi Arabia this year is a way to make that win feel even sweeter over a year later at WrestleMania 43. And that all starts here, so Sami Zayn is the pick, and this will be a full unit bet. Match number 3 will be Cody Rhodes at -175 taking on Jacob Fatu at +135. So why Cody Rhodes? As I always say, he is Cody Rhodes and he is our QB1. And like I said in the last betting video, he actually needs a win for a change, because not only did he get stuck with a no contest at that Saturday night's main event, he's not won any match in over 2 months. And since the start of October, he's just 2-5-2 in all televised matches and 1-2-1 in PLE matches. And those are some pretty ugly numbers that just can't stand for too long when you're Cody Rhodes. Now in storyline, we've seen Rhodes' attitude start to shift with McIntyre driving him crazy, which included McIntyre interrupting that match at Saturday night's main event to force the no contest. Now while it would be very helpful to see tonight's SmackDown before making this particular pick, we have no such benefit. But if you're watching this on Saturday morning, I would probably recommend this match to be the case where you should just pick the guy that lost in the final confrontation on SmackDown. But I digress, as we really should almost expect McIntyre to interfere in this match as well. And if he does, the match will likely be thrown out again and be ruled a no contest, and all bets will be void. So while I'd bet on that happening, despite a possibly bad look of McIntyre doing that 2 Rhodes PLE matches in a row, we also have to put it aside because there's just nothing we can do about it. If there is a finish, Rhodes getting a clean win is always on the table, but we could also get some character development here with Rhodes potentially cheating to win, which is what we already saw Rhodes do when he used the title to beat McIntyre at Saturday night's main event on November 1st. And it makes sense that he'd dig deep into those tricks to keep that push towards heeldom. And we also need to consider the Rumble itself, because while we can't really expect Rhodes to win again, we have to think that he's going to play a central role in the match. And a win here amplifies that role for next weekend. And I also need to note again that this is the same Saturday night's main event where Fatu lost despite destroying Braun Strowman. So we could get another fluke loss for Fatu here, so the WWE can not only continue to show how much of a beast Fatu is, but also give Rhodes the benefit of saying that he won. But why could Fatu win here? Because for as bad as Rhodes' record has been lately, we haven't seen Fatu do anything for the longest time. Not only did he surprisingly lose the US title to Sikoa at Money in the Bank, he lost the rematch at SummerSlam. And after that, he's only won 1 match at all, which was a 6-man tag versus the MFT on August 15th. So it's been over 5 months since he's won any match whatsoever. So we're certainly at a point now where we need to see just how awesome he is to remind us why he should share the ring with Rhodes and McIntyre. And should he lose here, why would he ever be deserving of a potential title shot during this road to WrestleMania? Perhaps the book knows something here that we don't yet, because Fatu is surprisingly the 6th favorite to win the Rumble right now, but with one word of caution, as there are no odds posted for Cody Rhodes at all. So perhaps Fatu can score a win to get him a prominent spot in the Rumble that didn't happen for him last year. And with the way the WWE's been booking Rhodes lately, perhaps they feel like he's finally beyond the wins and losses really mattering. So he can afford a loss in some fashion to help Fatu get over here. So while he doesn't have the title to force a DQ by using it anymore, he could really get closer to becoming a full heel by getting himself DQ'd here as well. As I said earlier, proceed with caution for this glorified house show because there aren't really any stakes here, so the shenanigans could be off the charts. And while I think we're actually going to get that no contest with McIntyre interfering, we have to pick something, so getting Rhodes back in the win column some way, somehow, is usually the best way to go. And so we will rely on Old Faithful and make Cody Rhodes the pick, but we have to keep this one small with just a quarter unit bet. Well, I waited as long as I could for a fourth match to be added, which makes me think that we'll get some tomfoolery in the MFT versus Wyatt 6 title match on SmackDown, so a no DQ version of that match will be added during Saturday night's main event itself. But for the 3 matches we have, here is our recap, and we've got all the favorites yet again. So we've got Rhea with a half unit bet, Sami Zayn for a full unit, and then Cody Rhodes with a quarter unit. Remember to never bet more than you can afford to lose, and with Cody Rhodes losing the title already, things are more unpredictable than usual as we are about to embark on the road to WrestleMania. But if you missed the road to this week's Stop the 10 Count, where I talked about each of those #1 contenders qualifying matches, be sure to take this exit and go right on over here and check that out. So be sure to enjoy Saturday night's main event, and I will see you next week to do it again for the Royal Rumble. But until then, I am the SportsZu, and this has been a podcast that needs a new name.